It's a real honor for me to introduce our next speaker. He's a man that I met myself just last year about this time. His name is Mr. Kim Stolfer, and he is currently the chairman and co-founder of Firearm Owners Against Crime, a statewide grassroots gun owners political action committee, legislative committee chairman and member of the board of directors for the Allegheny County Sportsman's League, and vice chairman of the legislative committee for the Pennsylvania Sportsmen's Association. Mr. Kim Stolfer. Thank you.
Wow, that's quite a title, isn't it? You know, I look out here and I see the faces of my countrymen and countrywomen, men and women, some of who have defended his country. And it makes me feel glad that what we started ourselves nearly 30 years ago, many other Americans are seeing the dangers of where we're at now. For all the veterans out there, we all swore an oath, just as legislators do, to support and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Is there any veteran here or any American that thinks that oath should be rejected? Do you? These are your freedoms. This is your country. I speak to you in the shadow of my son returning from his 4th tour in the Middle East. He's home until July 8th, and I'm here with you tonight because I honor his commitment to this country and all of yours to restoring what's been taken from us. And make no mistake, what's been taken from us is freedom, reasonableness. Who needs this? Who needs that? Who needs maybe mandatory health care? Nobody needs an assault weapon. Who makes those decisions? Is there anyone out there that believes gun control works? Have you ever seen a criminal say, "Oh my God, there's a law against that. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to buy that gun on the street"? Can you see in your faces, I see in your smiles that you recognize that. But understand what that brings with it. These laws that exist violate the very basic fundamental freedoms of our Constitution in Pennsylvania that were supposed to be, according to Section 25, forever to remain inviolate. Now, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but that means they're not supposed to touch the darn things, don't you think? So when you look in a mirror, I'm going to ask you this question, and I'd like you to answer it for yourself. Because I ask legislators all the time. And I ask candidates for office every time. What does freedom mean to you? It's a profound question that many candidates for office are surprised when we ask them that. Because, you know, it couples itself with one thing. The basic elemental essence of a legislator is they work for us. We don't work for them. And in many cases, that's been turned on its ear in this country because we as a people have allowed it to happen. They put their pants on just like you and I do. They take from our freedoms because they don't think it matters to us. When you see 50 or 60,000 people at a Steeler game, where is 50 or 60,000 people here? We have over 6 million gun owners in Pennsylvania. 6 million. They don't recognize the threat. Let me break it down for you. If I walked out here, reached in your pocket and took your wallets out, and started taking money from you, or slapped you in the face, what would each of you do to me? You'd knock me on my keister, right? Why do we let government do it to us? Last year, right over there, 2 police officers decided they were going to interpret the Constitution from Somerset, right here. Now they recognize they were wrong. Gun control began in this country. We exported it to the world. Did you know that? America did. It began in the big cities because the people there thought it would make them safe. They were convinced of that. The Dred Scott decision in the middle 1800s said that people of color couldn't own guns. It was based in race. And we said, okay. It resulted in the 14th Amendment that waited until just a couple of years ago to be incorporated and say, no, it doesn't. The Second Amendment belongs to all. But maybe I have a problem with the fact that 4 Supreme Court justices thought the Second Amendment didn't apply to us. 5 did, 4 didn't. Now, I admit, some of the guys in our group call me a bit of a hard case. Excuse me. But you know, if the Supreme Court justices don't realize what our basic fundamental freedoms are, why are they still Supreme Court justices? There's a method for removing them. But they still don't think that we believe that the freedoms exist for us. It's not a matter of whether or not you want them. We're not telling you you have to own a gun. What we're saying is that package of freedoms exists with each American. And that's where all of the problems, we believe, began with the expansion of gun control in America. The fight and the attacks on our Second Amendment can be traced to expansion in taxes, expansion in violations of private property, expansions in the attacks on your ability to free speech. Like, for instance, how many kids can go to school and draw on a piece of paper an M16 that their cousin may carry in Afghanistan or Iraq and end up being expelled? Excuse me? I know, I'm old-fashioned. But I think all of you are too, or you wouldn't be here. I just watched Time magazine talking about the Constitution on your anniversary. Did anybody see it? Where they said, is the Constitution relevant anymore? Time magazine, the magazine that covered World War II. Is the Constitution relevant anymore? Well, maybe they should ask me that, or maybe they should go to Arlington Cemetery, or the Vietnam Wall, or the World War II Memorial, and see the crying veterans that are there. Because I'm here to tell you, they're out of bounds and they're wrong. The Constitution is America. That is who we are. That is who you are. And from an old Marine, let me tell you, don't ever let anybody take it from you. Ever. That's why we do this. We're all volunteers. Just this week, the governor signed a bill expanding your right to self-defense. The Castle Doctrine. My thanks to Representative Metzger, because he was one of the leaders on this. And to Governor Corbett. And to you for the ones that made the phone calls. Because now you don't have to turn your back and run away from criminals. Now you have a right to stand your ground even on your own property. But the District Attorneys Association, the very people that are charged with enforcing the law in this Commonwealth, think it's still wrong. Now, I admit I asked a couple of them if they shouldn't go back to law school. They didn't care much for my question. And they tried to cut us out of the loop on discussing it. You see, it was myself and two other individuals that wrote the law, with Representative Capelli introducing it almost 8 years ago. Each one of you has the power to change this country and this state. You have been convinced that you can't do it, but you can. That's the example we're trying to set for each and every one of you. At dinner tonight, I asked Joe back there, I said, okay, Joe, what if you were the one standing at this microphone? What would you say? And this goes hand in hand with asking yourself, what does freedom mean to you? Because guess what? What would you say if it was you here? What would you say to your fellow citizens to try to motivate them and show them how much when you know how much we've been able to change the status quo in Harrisburg? What would you say? Each one of you needs to be a leader. We can't do it for you, but we can help you find a way. Join together. That's one of the weaknesses I've seen in the Tea Party movement, is they don't read the legislation. Some of the groups don't. But you can do it. All you need is to take a little bit of time and join together. And I believe in the power of the individual and the power of the group and the average American. I do not believe in party processes that usurp freedom playing games like it's some kind of football game. Because as George Washington said, the only thing parties are good for is to distract Americans from the real issues at hand. And he said that they would be the downfall of America. Because what goes up may come down. But if you don't base the discussion on issues like firearms ownership, like lower taxes, accountability in government, then we lose. Because that's what we're supposed to do. You know, one of the hardest things that I've had to do, and I have more seniority than most of the legislators in Harrisburg now, which I don't know is a good thing or a bad thing because I'm revealing my age, I guess, is because of this, I get a lot of calls from gun owners across the state who've had their rights and their freedoms taken from them. And if you pay any attention to these issues, you will see how the prejudice that began with people of color back in the 1800s now has turned into a prejudice against someone exercising their freedoms.